Y'all, I was supposed to be famous. So who am I without the applause? In this episode, I'm talking about breaking the cycle of performing for the world and discovering the woman underneath the achievements. And it's sort of bittersweet. Yeah. Have you ever sat back and thought about the little girl that you used to be? The little girl who had these wild and crazy dreams of being somebody, of being loved, admired, being uplifted, pedestalized almost. You ever grew up around people telling you, you're going to be somebody someday, you're going to be famous, you're going to be rich, you're going to be. Well, I did. And I just been thinking, what does that mean when everyone else sees your gifts, but life takes you on a completely different journey? So opposite of the expectation. What happens? Because I have spent my entire life performing, achieving, proving, and one day I had to stop and ask myself, who am I? Nobody's clapping anymore. And that's what I want to talk to y'all about today. So join me. This is typical conversations, typical stories, typical opinions right here. I am typically Toya, and you are my reflections. And pull up a chair, come on in, because right now is when the reflecting begins. Before we jump right into the conversation, as always, I like for us to just slow down together because sometimes I know that I talk too fast, I move too fast, I think too fast, and I want us to just take a deep breath in and let it out. Feel your shoulders drop and take some pressure off their spine. And here's a total mindful moment for today. Here's your quote. Your worth was never created by your accomplishments, so it cannot be destroyed by your disappointments. Y'all, I have sat with that and I'm ready to talk about it now. So I'm ready to open up and give my own thoughts of my own life, my own critique, if we can. I feel like I forgot that I was somebody. And I feel like we all forget we already somebody. So let's get to the juice. Okay, cousins, homegirls, let's squeeze the juice because today I want to take y'all all the way back. I've been sitting here going through this old journal of mine, reading some of my old goals, my old poetry, before the awards, after the jobs, after all the responsibilities. I'm right back to Toya. And I've been in performing, since I was about 5 or 6 years old. I can remember being so creative and being able to be on stage and my mama teaching me speeches and training me to how to be on stage. And I loved the stage. I loved it. I loved making people laugh because a lot of times my mama was sad, and if I could tell her a joke or do something entertaining to make her smile, that was a gift for me. And I loved making people feel something. I was writing poetry since the fourth grade. I was performing spoken word. I was acting. I was giving speeches. I was the person they would call whenever somebody needed a MC or somebody needed you to bring some energy to a crowd. It was me. It was if you needed somebody to say a heartfelt prayer, it was me. picked on me and called me, they chose me. And it was crazy to me at the time because I never felt good enough to be that girl. But people would always tell me, "You're gonna be famous. Bring her over here. Introduce her to so and so." And I was always getting this type of reaction out of people, even in Job Corps. When I was 16, I went to Job Corps. I left school and enrolled in Jacksonville Job Corps Center in Jacksonville, Florida. And my mama let me go live in this facility, which was pretty much like a college dorm. And when I got there, it was this lady there who was so mean and so vile to us, as the student body. We just always avoided this lady. But one day, this lady heard me doing jokes on the breezeway, and she called me in her office and offered me a role in a movie. She introduced me to some producers. She called my parents, my grandparents, and told them, "This girl is so talented." Her name was Miss Brazil, and she was beautiful, and she was always dressed to impress. She drove a Benz. She was always top of the line. And once she got a whiff of me and got to know me, she pedestalized me. And she would just love to hear me imitate Shanae all the time. She was calling my parents. And, this is just one of the many instances, one of the ways I have always had this type of effect on people. So I knew I was going to grow up and be rich, revered, and famous. And I believed in it. I believed in myself. I clapped for myself. I was rapping. And I'm not just talking about rapping little songs. I mean full fledged in the studio, shooting videos. I'm thinking one gift segue to the next. I recorded albums, CDs, the whole nine. Okay. I've had the beauty team. Y'all. This is what I thought I was going to do. It was so embedded in me that I wouldn't go certain places. I wouldn't be around certain people and things. I wouldn't allow myself to do or become a part of certain, but I protected my reputation like I knew my children would be embarrassed. I thought of them, but I also thought about my fans and the people who knew my caliber of my personality. I wrote plays, I created stories, I've been on stage, I produced plays, I've directed plays. I've always wanted to be there, that person entertaining the people. I did stand-up comedy. And you know what? I'm gonna do a video for y'all and tell y'all about my stand-up career. It's not what you think, you know. But I wanted people to be entertained by me. I wanted them to laugh. I wanted people to think. I had some award-winning poetry. I won so many awards doing spoken word. I won the Sisterhood Showcase in Memphis, Tennessee. Spoken word competition. I was featured in a magazine. They gave me, I think it was $1,000 check, one of them big checks, and I've I probably entered over 20 contests in my life, and I've probably won at least 17 of those. I just thought I had what it take. I created a whole little world for myself, and one that involved me signing autographs, which I've done. One that involved me speaking on a podium in front of thousands of people. Which I've come close to thousands of people, but I have been on podiums. I had my own television show. And that's another thing that makes me smile. I was put on camera and given a chance to run my show on Comcast Channel 31, MUTV1. Shout out to Dr. Ivory. And he allowed me to come on this platform and do whatever I want. So I ran some funny skits. I did some thought-provoking poetry. I even had special guests come. Come on now. I thought this was my lane. And I still feel like one day maybe timing, connections, all these things matter. And when I look back, I have to give myself credit because I did a lot of work and I put my passions to work, probably more than anybody could have done living in my shoes. I've had the moments that were the best, but I've also lost. I have lost competitions. I have lost, time. I've lost opportunities, you know. And that's the part of me that's thinking out loud right now. That's the losses that's speaking up. They hurt like question. They put so many questions that starts to hurt. Did I do something wrong? I cried when I had to stop rapping. I made up my mind one day to go get a job and stop rapping. It took me months to get over there, and I don't know if I'm still over it. I haven't visited the idea in a while, but I remember feeling so low and so angry at myself, like I was giving up. I gave up. I gave up. And this was after having quit my job to rap. But here I was then feeling, at the time I had just met who's my husband now. I had 3 children, and I kind of wanted to be at home now. I wanted to feel the feeling of a normal life. But I still have to ask myself, what was it that they didn't see in me? Because nobody told me to stop being a dreamer. Everybody kept telling me the same thing. So it wasn't like I felt like I was chasing a dream. I just couldn't figure it out. How to do this and survive. So the dream changed. And see, when you are talented and bold enough to express your talent, you start feeling like people expect big things from you, and they expect you to always be happy and be performing. They always want you in performance mode. It took a toll on me. It's a hard pull on my energy. But there are things that I feel proud that I did get to accomplish. When I was in prison, I was doing plays, writing shows, presenting hair shows, talent shows, anything that I could to get out of this mindset of being locked up, because I told my dad some things that made him cry over the phone when I was in jail. And my dad said to me, Toya, find you a hobby. So my hobby became writing, and I wrote plays, and I would write the warden of the prison and say, can we do this play? I got an idea. He would say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Let her in the library. Let her bring whoever she got on this list so they can rehearse. And that's what we did. And we presented shows where people and commissioners were coming from Nashville just to see exactly what we had going on. So I didn't give up that soon. I was still trying to find my footing, my grounding in this, to see who was gonna recognize and notice that I could be promoted. With just a little bit of promotion, I could go far. And I've always been ready to show people what I could do. I've never felt like I'm on the spot. I'm always ready to be on stage. As a little girl, I had a 5-page Easter speech, and it was so long that my mama I had to do about 10 churches a year. My mama would take me from her church to her sister church to my grandmama church to Collierville to all these different places. I did welcomes for real prestigious companies in the city, where one time I remember they picked me up in a limo. I was in the second grade. I was 8 years old, and my mama had to work. Girl, this limo picked me up by myself, and I was sharp. I had on a petticoat with a big wide slip at the bottom, and got in that limousine. They drove me to the Radisson Hotel downtown. The chauffeur helped me out and walked me into this room that was full of people, hundreds of people. And they said, she's here. Walked me straight up to the stage. I never even knew who I was going to greet or what. I just went straight up to the stage, and I was so short they put me on a podium, but it was some stairs, some little mobile stairs that I stepped up on to do my speech. And I got up there with my ring curls and I said, we do not propose in welcoming you to worry you with a lengthy address of flowery words, but we hope to make your coming here a grand occasion. And this was my welcome speech. Okay, my mama got this out of a book and trained me on this speech every day and every night till I got the inflections and everything. And these people, when I got through with this speech, they stood up and yelled. And I looked and saw my auntie out in the crowd, my mom's sister, Joyce, my auntie Joyce. Beautiful woman, was very successful woman. They're well dressed, well put together. This is my role models, okay? Sitting out in the audience, and she stood up and she clapped and she motioned for me to come to her. And she had tears just streaming down her face. And I said, oh my God, I'm thinking, did I mess up? Did I do something wrong? Because my auntie is upset. But no, she was crying tears of joy. I'm telling y'all, this is when the feelings first started. You know, I was a little girl. And I thought I knew all there was to know about what I needed to know, and that I would never need school or anything. Nothing would hold me back. But years down the road, the applause changed. And I spent years chasing that feeling of the stage through so many things, you know, through my husband, through being married, through different, being in other circles, you know, through jobs, through drugs, through food, through so many different things, trying to chase that feeling of being applauded. Somewhere between getting all the trophies and certificates and awards and winning best new actress of the year and being awarded, and I forgot to ask myself, do I see me? I feel like everybody else is seeing me, applauding for me, but who am I? Expecting everybody to applaud is another thing that really turned the table to where I was hidden in plain sight now. Maybe being overly expectant of the applause, waiting, being too quiet, you know, waiting quietly, waiting too quietly to come to myself, y'all. Y'all, I don't think my story is over. I really don't. I actually find myself entertaining you and doing other things that are entertaining to people. And maybe I was forgotten, you know, but maybe I'm still preparing. I don't know, y'all, but this is a journey. And maybe that little girl who stood up on that podium that day in front of the Comets Recon ceremonies, maybe that little girl dream did not die. Maybe it was just deferred. And while she was trying to become this other woman to blend with that talented woman, she found even more important things to say, to share. So, my question for you today, my question of the week is, and I want to hear from y'all too. Get in the comments and tell me, did you dream about anything? Did you dream about becoming somebody that you felt like maybe you missed the mark? I don't know. Tell me. Tell me in the comments because I do read them. I will be reading all my comments. Thank y'all for sitting with me today. Reflecting, you are my reflections. And I want you to remember that you are more than your accomplishments. Don't dwindle yourself down to everything that you've done. You are more than your mistakes. You are more than the applause. You are far more than what the people see. Love you so much. And until next time, I want you to protect your peace. Remember, I'm good. It's them. I am the one sharing my reflection on my journey and my story. And that's typically Toya. And I'll see y'all in the next video.